a Tab Media special report featuring veteran collegiate and student ministries leader Mike Nuss. I'm your host, Jennifer Rash, and we'll be discussing highlights from Mike's 44-year career and maybe a few tips he might share with the next generation of leadership. Mike, thank you for taking some time for us.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm glad to do it.
Okay, well, to get us started, let's figure out where you are right now, and then we'll kind of look at all of that journey that you've had. So tell me about your role currently and what the work is around you.
For the last 22 years, or just about 22 years, I've served as the state missioner here with the State Board of Missions and directed the Office of Collegiate and Student Ministries, which basically involves middle school, high school, and college ministries for all 3,200 Alabama Baptist churches. In addition, I supervise all of our state board employed Baptist campus ministers who serve on college and university campuses across the state.
How many campus ministers do we have?
17. Yes, full-time campus ministers, and many of those work in dual university settings. So they may serve at a four-year school, but also have responsibilities for community college ministry that's nearby. In some cases, more than one community college. So most all of our campus ministers have additional assignments other than just their primary campus.
Okay, all right. So now you've been in the role as director for 22 years, correct? 22
right.
years. Wow. All right. I have lots of questions about what you've seen in 22 years, but let me jump back really quickly because you served as campus minister, and also you were very active in BCM, Baptist Campus Ministries, as a college student. Give us the quick highlight trail of how you landed in this role where you are right now.
Sure. As a college student, I was headed for a role in high school education. That was where I was going, and it only took 6 short weeks of student teaching for the Lord to convince me that was not going to be where I was headed.
I wonder if they do student teaching for that reason.
Well, it worked for me. I don't know if they do it if anybody else has that experience.
Weed people out.
Yeah, it really. But I always loved students. I loved being involved with them at a time in their lives where they were making decisions, formulating their life goals, integrating faith with that obviously was very important to me. At the same time, as a college student, I was very involved in campus ministry at the University of Montevallo, where I was a student, and have jokingly said I kind of majored in BSU or BCM at that, and my grades probably reflected that as well. But I took an internship job with campus ministry, a position with campus ministry right out of school, and really through that experience, God called me clearly to collegiate ministry and to working with students. I worked with 3 community colleges in South Alabama, and everything clicked at that point. I knew that that's what God had for me. And I've never really wavered for that. I've had opportunities to serve on church staffs or pastor, but I've never really been able to escape God's call on my life for college students and for students in general. I mean, right now I work with middle school, high school, and college students through our office here. But I think they're obviously the future. And if we're going to see the future impacted for the kingdom, then we better be about this business. So that's the short version.
And you've served on college campuses in both Alabama and South Carolina?
That's correct. I was in Spartanburg, South Carolina for 6 years, where I worked on 4 different campuses. And then at the University of South Alabama in Mobile for 15 years as the campus minister there.
Okay. All right. And you mentioned BSU. That stands for Baptist Student Union, right? And that was the original name before the current name, Baptist Campus Ministries.
Right.
And I'm guessing that it's just a normal update that happens sometimes, a fresher name.
Yeah, I think it also reflects our ministry to the entire campus,
Okay.
not just not. I mean, obviously, we're focused on students, college students, and that's where our primary focus is. But uh, we also are involved in faculty lives and faith journeys and um, campus organizations, Greek organizations, and a lot of different aspects of the entire campus, not just students, but obviously primarily students. But I think that the name just wanted to reflect a broader approach to ministry on university campuses.
Okay, so that's interesting. Flesh that out a little bit more. What does a ministry on a college campus involve and look like? And are they similar everywhere you go, cookie cutter, or are they vastly different?
Not cookie cutter at all. Um, we often say that this is not a one size fits all ministry.
Okay.
Some folks are well suited to working on large SEC type schools, 4-year schools. Others are more suited for smaller schools, regional schools, or community college ministry, where the students are very different. We find students incredibly different across the spectrum of schools in Alabama. And so our ministry has to be shaped by the needs of those students, obviously. So we have students on a 4-year school campus, say at Auburn University or UAB or University of Alabama. And those ministries, while there may be some similarities, they really they're really more focused on the needs of those students. And you just find a student who in different degree programs, different accelerated programs, usually those schools attract a different kind of student, or a student who may not be attending a technical school or a community college. And so you just have to tailor your ministry to those students. The thing that they have in common, obviously, is number one, a need to know Christ as their Savior, and a need to be discipled and mentored and guided as they grow in their faith. We really talk a lot about integrating faith and education and making sure that students have a grasp on how their faith is integrated with their career, their chosen vocation, how that affects their relationships, friendships, and potential life mates. So it's really, we find students at an intersection where they're making the most important decisions of their life. And so our ministries are tailored to those things. Obviously, a call to a relationship with Christ is first, but then how do you grow in that faith? How do you walk day by day? It's not a hat that you put on Sundays, or when you attend something. It's a part of who you are. It's a life that you live, and that's really the role of a campus minister, to help students understand that journey and to walk alongside them on the journey. And then, be there for the bumps and the bruises that will inevitably be a part of their walk. Yeah.
But how does that happen? How does that happen on this camp? Is there, programming services, coffee? How do you do that? And how do the massive number of students?
All of the above. It's obviously you can have opportunities for students for to be involved with discipleship groups, where they will be with other students, maybe all freshmen or integrated upper class and freshmen, kind of learning from each other, led by an upperclassman or a campus minister who regularly study scripture, apply it to their lives, help them walk daily. The other part is what you said, just kind of life one-on-one. So I have a lot of our campus ministers have regular just times with students where they'll get coffee or walk across campus or um, deal with some specific prayer need in their life or walk with them through a particular hard time. But in addition, there's large group events, worship, um, um, retreats, conferences, um, you know, opportunities for students to grow in their faith, not just corporately, but just then again individually, one-on-one with other students and campus ministers. So it's a kind of a combination of all of it, really, Jennifer. And that differs from campus to campus. Some campuses do that weekly, some monthly. There's fellowship time. There's lunch provided generally every week on most of our campuses where students just gather for a meal. And a lot of times that involves faculty and staff as well. So students get to see faculty and staff outside the classroom setting, which is still all a part of their education and understanding how their faith integrates with their life, the rest of their life, not just their educational process.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I'm thinking too, some of the bigger schools will have an actual building or at least a space, and then some of the smaller schools will not. Do you see a difference in how the success rates maybe or the opportunities are different between those two?
Yeah, I'm not sure about success rates, but I don't know that we've ever really focused on that.
Yeah.
We do, I mean, we have Baptist student centers at most of our schools across the state. There are a few that do not. We've always kind of maintained that while that was a great blessing provided by Alabama Baptist through the cooperative program, I mean, it really serves as kind of we call it like an evangelistic outpost on campus, because that is property that is owned by Alabama Baptist and maintained by Alabama Baptist. So we have a lot of freedom there to worship, to teach, to pretty much anything that we want to do in that facility. We also want to be a good partner with the university. And so we try to maintain a good relationships with the university. But we've also said a building is not necessary or a facility is not necessary. There are plenty of campuses, national campus ministries, who never had facilities and never majored on that as a part of their ministry. So that really is even more incumbent on us to be good partners with the university, to use university space, to honor our relationship with the university, be a good guest on that campus. And so a lot of times we'll use university facilities, rooms, meeting rooms, or sometimes even a combination of the two. Even if we have a student center somewhere, we'll do some on-campus stuff as well. Obviously, there is, just like any Baptist church, there are some folks who are never going to go into a facility that says Baptist anything on the outside.
Right.
So we really kind of stress the fact that the days of if you build it, they will come have long since passed, and we have to be on campus where we are. We absolutely view the campus as a mission field, and so our campus ministers or state missionaries have to be on campus. We don't use the building as a fortress. We use it as a kind of a headquarters or an outpost on campus.
How does BCM relate to the other faith-based organizations that are maybe have similar missions and out there? What happens there? Is it competition
obviously
or we're working together?
Yeah, we do. I think it just depends on campus to campus how active all those other organizations are. We maintain a really strong relationship with those folks, the Christian organizations on campus, and there are generally, especially in the South in Alabama, there are many other organizations. Churches, individual church collegiate ministries can be a campus organization. They can request religious organization status from the university, and they have to abide by all the campus regulations and jump through all the hoops to do that. But that's pretty common on many of our campuses now, where most of our larger churches, or many of our larger churches, are also recognized student organizations on campus. I think, well, hit that again, that last
Well,
question.
yeah. I was just thinking about, the difference of how many of the groups may be there, and then students having to pick, or can they kind of blend in with all of them, and then do all of you work together
Yeah,
in different
we
ways, or at least figure out how to go together anyway.
sure. I think there's just a mutual respect for what we
Right.
do. We
Okay.
all obviously we know that there are going to be students who overlap in our ministries.
Mhm.
We really try to encourage students to not um, ministry hop,
Right. Like
but
church
to
hopping, right?
find a place where they
Yeah.
want to kind of invest their life and be a part of that campus organization community. Um, and I think that's kind of a life lesson as well, in terms of as they finish school and find a church home somewhere. We want to make sure that they understand that concept. But collegiate ministry, campus ministry organizations work well together. Um, Many times there's a campus ministry kind of umbrella organization where all those organizations come under a common kind of status with the university.
Mhm.
I know that several of our schools, the university president regularly, meets with all the leaders of those organizations,
Mhm.
and many of our universities see campus ministry, collegiate ministry on that campus, as a great benefit to the campus community as a whole. Um, if you look at just community life across Alabama, churches are one of the mainstays of a camp of any community. The impact that church has in a small town or a small community was the same on a college campus. Religious organizations have a role there. Some universities embrace that role better than others do.
Mhm.
But I think there's a great benefit to the overall goal of the university for students to have opportunities for faith, for growth, for ministry while they're a college student. And I think the university gets that and
Mhm.
understands it by and large. That, as I said, that works better in some places than others, but that's at least how we see it across, in a general way.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Through the years of covering different aspects of Baptist campus ministries, I've always heard how the leadership works to make sure the students still find a church home. They don't make the BCM their church. How do y'all work through that and help the students understand the difference and then plug in somewhere?
Yeah, that can be tough,
Mhm.
because I think um, through my ministry, I've had students say to me, this is my church, and I'm pretty quick to correct them that no, it is definitely not your church. It is a ministry on the college campus that is really an arm of the local Baptist church on the university campus. I think that really kind of resonated maybe more 15 or 20 years ago, when churches were not as involved in collegiate ministry as they are today. BCM was seen as kind of the link to the college campus, or the arm of the local church on the college campus. We're supported through local churches, through local Baptist associations of churches. So we were an extension of their ministry on campus. Well, many of those churches have their own ministry on campus now. So it's a little bit harder to define sometimes for students as to why we're not a church and why we're different from the churches that are already on campus. Bottom line is, we try to help them understand the nature of church, what it means to be the body of Christ. Um, Many of our students come from pretty strong youth ministries. And I think a lot of times those youth ministries, sometimes they tend to get siloed within a church. So the students see the youth ministry as the church, and they just parallel that with a college ministry on campus. And so we've really tried to help them understand the nature of church, what that is, the intergenerational nature of church, and educate them a bit on what it means to what church is and what it means to be a member of a church, and how they, as they finish school, move somewhere perhaps with their vocation, need to invest in a local body of Christ, the local church there, and not substitute anything else for church. Not a civic club or a group or a small group or a men's Bible study group or something like that. While that may be a part of it, that's not what church is actually. So that's a little bit harder to do, depending on the student, but we really are very, very, very pointed to say, BCM wants to connect you with a local church. So we involve local churches in our ministry. Local churches are a part of our ministry on a weekly basis. So students see pastors, college ministers, youth pastors, youth ministers, as a kind of mixed in with what we're doing with BCM. So they see it as something that's together, not two different entities here. At least that's what we're trying to do. We're hoping that works, but yeah, BCM would not exist without the local church. We wouldn't have ministry without the impact of the local Baptist church and the local Baptist Association of churches. That wouldn't happen without those partnerships.
Right. It just seems like you need each other. Everybody needs to be involved. It's too massive, really.
Absolutely.
That, and what you're saying makes me think of a couple of trends I've heard lately. That's kind of exciting. How there's some pastors and student pastors and collegiate ministers, those kinds of roles, realizing that potentially young people are getting to college having a deficit of understanding what church is, because the student ministries have become so, as you mentioned, so siloed and so isolated that they don't grasp it. And they're changing some of their philosophy and how they're educating from a younger age, so that they don't get to college and not understand. And so that seems like that pairs really nicely with what you already are doing, and how that can make a difference in just what the young person will visualize and think of when they get there. So
yeah, I've had a lot of students through the years say to me, I want to go to a church like my home church.
right.
Well, what does that mean? And for many of them, it means their home church youth ministry.
Okay.
It means bells and whistles, a different kind of worship, all the things that go along with that. And, depending on where they're living or where they're going to live after they finish school, or even while they're in school, they may not find that. So they're finding that church is more than what they've experienced as a high school or middle school student. And that's a life lesson that I think BCM is helping students learn.
Good. Well, that leads me to the another initiative you've started, and I'm excited about, called the Timothy Initiative, and how you're tying in with high school students. Help us understand what's going on there and how we can get involved.
Yeah, Timothy Initiative is a new undertaking for us here at the State Board of Missions, and I'm particularly excited about it. And it really came out of kind of an examination of how we were doing as a ministry across our state in preparing students for a vocational ministry. We felt like we were doing a pretty good job of mobilizing students or involving students while they were students, both in mission opportunities, in service opportunities, and leadership opportunities through BCM and through churches. But we really felt like we were missing the mark a bit with students post-graduation, that we didn't know how much help we were giving them, especially if they were feeling God's call on their life, either to some kind of vocational church ministry, staff ministry, pastor, children's minister, youth minister, or to the mission field. And really it came was brought home to us by looking at how many Alabamians, how many Alabama students serve in missions post-graduation through either the International Mission Board's Journeyman program or the North American Mission Board's Go-To program. We really, we felt like we weren't doing all we could do there. So the Timothy Initiative really grew out of that kind of desire to do more, to help students more. And basically, it's fairly simple. It really takes college students in their last 2 years of school. That's not as neat and clean as we had hoped it would be, because we're finding students who, well, I'm actually a sophomore, but I have junior hours. I've only been here a year, but I'm already a junior. It's a little squishier than it was when I was. And so we basically are asking for 4 semesters from them to be mentored or paired with a mentor who may be a pastor, maybe a college minister or a campus minister or a children's minister in a local church or an associational missionary. Basically, and meet with that mentor on a weekly basis for 4 semesters, and be involved in a missions or a ministry internship between their 2 years, junior and senior year. And then post-graduation, if they're still headed and if they still feel like God is leading them to vocational ministry, they can apply or request a personal grant of up to $5,000 to help with journeyman expenses. Maybe they're headed to seminary and they have some student loan expenses from college that they need to take care of. This is certainly not meant to take care of everything, but it is a way for us to say from the State Board of Missions and through Alabama Baptist to say, we care about you. We want to nurture you and help you grow. You are our future pastors, leaders, missionaries, and we want to do everything we can to make sure you're headed in the right direction and are equipped to handle what's out ahead of you. We have a lead team made up of pastors, associational missionaries, campus ministers, children's ministers, who have put together a curriculum for Timothy Initiative, and our students and mentors will go through that curriculum, and then we'll involve them in some mission and internship kind of ministries in between those two semesters. We're just getting started. Our application deadline is coming up like next week, so we still would like to have a few more students apply. I've had a lot of questions like, well, can I still do this if I'm not a junior, but I may have 4 semesters? And what we're telling people is absolutely just apply, and then we'll work with you to see how we can figure this out. We really want to try to help students who are feeling God's call on their life to be better equipped just through the scriptures, through understanding the role of ministry, how they can use their gifts and abilities in a particular ministry aspect, and be, when they leave college, have a better footing, basically, to what's next. It may be seminary, it may be work, it may be the mission field. We want to make sure we're doing a better job of getting them there and equipping them and encouraging them to go there. They're not going to have this time ever again. Once that's passed, the life has a way of rearranging your priorities, and so we want to make sure we're doing everything we can to make sure they're equipped as they leave school.
What an incredible support and resource. That's exciting. Okay, so I was thinking about, what about the student who might not be 100% sure the call is there? They're kind of wavering. They'd like to explore it. Are they going to have to prove to you that there's a call, or is this an okay time to kind of explore some of that?
Yeah, I don't know any minister that has a certificate of call. But no, absolutely not. If we have a student who says, I really feel like God is dealing with me in some way, then we want to walk with them and explore that. If they end up saying, I'm really going to use this engineering degree to be the best leader I can in my church and in my company and my vocation, then we're going to absolutely champion that and help them do that in ways that we can. But if there are students who really feel like, I feel like God is maybe dealing with me in terms of a vocational ministry, we really have not done well. I think we've been a bit deficit in calling out the called and letting them know that we're here for them. We want to support them. Their local church is probably doing that in some great ways, but from the State Board of Missions, we want to say, we hear that. We want to come alongside you. We want to find out individually what you're feeling God is leading you to do, and then find ways to connect you with people that we know that may be able to help you walk and figure this journey out as you move ahead. I mean, obviously, if someone feels like they may be called to be a youth minister, then we're going to connect them with the best youth minister that we can and help them understand that journey, what it means to be a youth minister in today's world. A lot of students who come out of church ministries see things pretty much from a one-dimensional standpoint in terms of ministry. They may see a pastor preach on Sunday, but they don't understand the rest of the role of pastor, what that's like. Same with campus minister, same with children's minister, same with missionary. And so that's really the goal, is to put them with somebody who can kind of do life with them for a couple of years, year and a half, something like that. And then give them a little kind of kickstart on the after graduation to say, if you financially, this may be tough. You may not be. You may not need that. But Alabama Baptists are so generous. Their gifts through the cooperative program are making this possible. And so anyway, we're very excited about the launch of this. All the students will be together for the first time at the Called Conference, which is a conference our office does along with men's ministries here at the State Board early in August at Samford University. And so we'll start our 2-year time together that week and see how it goes. It's a new venture for us, so we're kind of making this up as we go along a bit, but we're very, very, very excited about it.
Oh, and just think to be in on the ground floor and going with this first one would be exciting.
Yeah.
So I think all of you out there are listening, you need to check it out, Timothy Initiative, and we'll have the info in the show notes for you. It makes me think as well that it could be for bivocational, covocational, other types of callings too. So someone might be going through college, getting an education in a certain field, and then want to have a bivocational type setup, a covocational setup in ministry.
Absolutely.
And so that can help as well. Yeah, I
we,
love that.
We want to help students understand the tent making kind of concept. They may want to be a nurse or that's where their calling is, but we want to help them understand, that means a lot of things. It may not mean just being a nurse in a hospital or a doctor's office or somewhere else. Let us help you explore how God can use your nursing skills in a ministry context here or somewhere around the world. So,
okay, well, that'll be fun to follow and see how that's going. Yeah. All right, I still want to get to your tips, but before we get there, I wanted to ask you one more BCM related campus question, and that deals with collegiate church planting. That's been somewhat of a confusing situation. Can you help us understand what that means, what's happening, and how that all works?
Absolutely. For many years now, churches planted in a university context have been a pretty standard way of reaching college students, college populations in other parts of North America. It's been a very strong movement in the Northwest, in the Northeast, where there just aren't the abundance of churches to reach the college campus. And so that has become a strong way of doing that in those areas. A few years ago, we began a partnership with a church plant in the Shoals area in Florence that was really focused on reaching that campus at the University of North Alabama. And I became kind of intrigued about this. Obviously, as an old-time campus minister, I had a lot of questions. I assure you that Alabama Baptist had a lot of questions about what that meant. How could you have a church just made up of college students? And I think that's where the misnomer is really there. I think a better way of saying it, Jennifer, would be a church planted in a university context or a university setting.
Good.
So really what it means is that the missional sphere of that church, the missional focus of that church is the university campus.
Got it.
Does not mean that it means that there are going to be lots of other folks involved in the life of that church. So, I mean, anybody, put two and two together here and understand how college students may not be able to support an entire church themselves because of the nature of college students. They're here today, gone tomorrow, kind of deal. We began partnering with that church, and they planted another church. That church planted another church in Huntsville, and then basically it became a network of churches. We know now as the Well Network. Alan Tate is the pastor of the Well Church in Florence and the leader of that network. And since then, we've seen churches planted in Tuscaloosa. We're planting another one in Jacksonville this coming summer. And so it is a growing another way of reaching the probably over 200,000 college students in Alabama who do not have any kind of relationship with Jesus Christ or any kind of church background or foundation. And, there are probably 300,000 plus college students. A full 2/3 of those don't have a church connection or don't have a faith connection. And so we really felt like that BCM was strong. We're not going to stop that. We're going to keep that strong ministry through the State Board of Missions and the local Baptist associations. We've loved seeing the advent of churches reaching college students, local churches reaching college students, not just the big college church ministry churches. But then we really felt like this was a viable way of reaching college students in an old-line state in Alabama, where there are lots of Baptist churches, lots of Baptist associations. It wasn't something that we should be afraid of. It's really something that we should champion. If they're about reaching lost students, then we need to include them as a part of our strategy to reach every student across the state. One of those church plants, just a year or a little more than a year and a half old, baptized 22 students last year. And we look at it as now as a part of our strategy to reach every student. Really it includes collegiate church planting. It really is something that a lot of Alabama Baptists have questions about, have maybe a misunderstanding of how that works. We're definitely not there to take students from other churches or to lessen or to say in any way what other churches are doing is not valid or not good or not successful or not having an impact on that campus. We're just saying that there are lots of lost students on our campuses, and we really have to do everything that we can do to reach those students for Christ. I think there's a lot of work to be done. It's a big mission field, and we need to make sure that we're not just limiting what we're doing in these college and campus communities. So it's new for us. It's new for Alabama Baptists. But I think it has a definite place, and I think it's something that we are going to see grow in the days and years ahead. And I'm really, really excited about what's already happening and the potential for what can happen. One of the things I'm particularly excited about is the way that our existing ministries, BCM and Collegiate Church Plant, are partnering together to reach students. We've had many success stories over the past few years of students who began their connection with a faith organization on campus, either through BCM or through that church plant, and found community in BCM or small groups through that church, It's not a competition, it's a partnership. And we need to keep that in front of folks as we go forward.
Wow. So the local churches that are already in the areas around the universities, these new plants that are focused on the university setting, the Baptist campus ministries, all of this happening together. You've used the word partnership a lot. I like that, and all of this kind of comes in with the cooperative program and the funding,
Right.
because all of the campus ministries aspects are funded through the cooperative program. Correct?
That's yes. There our state board of missions funded campus ministers are paid for through the cooperative program. They're funded through the cooperative gifts by Alabama Baptist through the cooperative program. And we like to say, again, it's a partnership ministry between the State Board of Missions and the local Baptist Association. The local Baptist Association provides funding for the local ministry part of our work. The State Board of Missions provides a campus minister and all that entails. In many places, we provide a facility and everything that means, upkeep, insurance, all that goes with it. And the local Baptist Association of Churches provides the actual funding for that ministry. So if there's pizza to be bought or worship resources or Bible studies or Bibles to be distributed, those funds come from directly from the churches. So again, it comes back to would not do this ministry without the local Baptist church.
So currently the new things you're seeing at the 44-year mark of your journey, you've got the church planting and the new student to Timothy initiative. Take us back and walk us through some of the highlights you watched happen through those 44 years and then maybe what you're seeing coming in the future.
Wow. That's a long time to think back. I've been doing a little bit more of it in the last few weeks and months, but I think a couple things come to my mind immediately. I think, and this part I think is kind of universal. I think it'll never get old for anybody who loves students, loves college students. I think most or many of our campus ministers would say the same thing. When you see God working in the life of a student and they finally get it, they understand how the role of their faith integrates with the rest of their life. It's not two different worlds. The light comes on and they get it. And they, that doesn't mean they're all going to be missionaries or ministers, but it means that they understand how their personal relationship with Jesus Christ impacts the rest of their life. Mm-hmm. And it's not something you do on Sunday. It's something you live every day. It affects every aspect of your life. When you see a student get that and come to that for the first time, that's just an unbelievable feeling. God working through you, through your ministry, and in the life of that student. That's something that's so gratifying, so amazing. We try to celebrate all of those. And sometimes it's a long, slow process. Sometimes it takes many years for us to see that happen. But I think that obviously is something that I've loved seeing. I'm still in contact and in touch with a lot of former students who are now in ministry themselves and teaching on the university level, in pastors, youth ministers, all kinds of vocations. But you know that the ministry of Baptist Campus Ministry had some kind of small part in their faith journey, and that is such an overwhelming just feeling to know that that we were a part of that at some point along the way. I think that the other thing that immediately comes to my mind is something I was talking about earlier, is just the advent of the church kind of waking up to the need to reach the college campus. Mm-hmm. I would say 20 or 30 years ago, there were a few churches who saw that. Most of them, we know who they were. They were kind of your college churches on big college campuses. But one of the things that we've tried to impress on Alabama Baptist is the need to reach every student. They may be a vocational student at a technical school or a community college student going part-time, working full-time. they're still a student and they still have those same needs in their lives. And so we've tried to help churches understand the critical need to be on mission and reach those college students. And uh, really been amazing to see churches wake up to that fact. I would say now, at this point in my journey, there are many, many, many more churches involved in college ministry. It's not just the big churches on close proximity to college campuses. I love seeing churches wake up to what college students can mean for their church, how they can reach college students. They don't all have to be, contemporary worship or, a young pastor. I think, again, it goes back to helping students understand what the church is, the nature of church, and how that means. But I've loved seeing churches wake up to the need to reach students. Nothing has made me more excited to get a call from a church, a pastor, or somebody who says, "We want to start a college ministry. Come tell us how to do it or what we need to do." That's one of my favorite things about my current role. And even when I was a college campus minister, that was a lot of fun helping churches wake up to what ministering to college students can mean for their church and for the students.
And so that is something that's fair to request of your office, right? If, hey, we
Absolutely.
just want to
Yeah,
understand more, we want to learn more, we want to see what we can
absolutely.
do. Okay, so that would be
Yeah.
good. We'll make sure we put your contact info in the show notes as well.
All right.
Well, over 44 years, I'm guessing the nature of students and the way they live life, and just as technology increased and all the different things, I'm guessing things had to have changed. And then as a campus minister, you had to find a way to adapt and move through that. What are some tips you can provide for those coming next to not burn out, to stay fresh, to be able to keep moving forward?
Yeah. Boy, has it changed. I was just telling somebody in the last day or two, 22 years ago, even when I was still on the college campus, most students didn't have personal computers. Almost no student had a cell phone.
Mhm.
And now that's just ubiquitous. It's the way we do life now. And so while technology has changed our world, it's also changed ministry to students. I was just joking with somebody in the last day or two about the fact that I can't get students to read emails. Universities have just about given up trying to get students to read emails, um, and um, and and I would say so. Number one, I think technology has made an enormous difference in how we reach students, how we connect with them, how they connect with us, how we communicate with them. But I would say the biggie here is that does not replace a personal relationship with individual students. I think while they may love getting a text from you saying, "I'm praying for you," or "You take your test today," or something like that, without the relationship that you have with that student, the text could be, fairly empty, or that communication cannot be quite as meaningful. And so I think what I would say to folks who are ministering to students today, both high school students and college students, is um, don't ever underestimate the value of individual time with students, one-on-one time, small group time, you pouring your life into students, letting them see you as not only as a minister, but also perhaps as a husband or as a father or as a wife or a mother, how you relate to your world, and let them walk with you through that. Um, Nothing will replace kind of life on life. I think. I think that's one of the things the best gifts that we can give students as student ministers.
Wow. So no matter what else is swirling around, stay focused on the student, right?
Yeah, absolutely,
That's good.
absolutely.
That's good. Well, Mike, any last words you'd like to share? Just any, if you could do it all
Um,
over again, what you would tell yourself, or
Gosh, um, this has been such an amazing journey. I and such an honor for me to serve Alabama Baptist this way. Something I never really expected. Something that I had to kind of jump in the deep into the ocean and discover for myself. But it's been the honor of a lifetime. Really, I've loved every minute of it. The honor to work with men and women who are called by God, who've given their lives to students who every day on the college campus or in youth ministers in local churches or college ministers who are pouring out their lives for students. What a great group of people to come alongside and to help champion and advocate for. That's been truly amazing. I guess I would also be remiss if I didn't say this. Through the long haul, the support of Alabama Baptists their generosity has been just mind-blowing. We may not always be the best or the sharpest knife in the drawer or whatever analogy you want to use there, but we can always count on the faithfulness of Alabama Baptist to make sure we're doing everything we can to fulfill the Great Commission, to reach the college campus for Christ, help students grow in their faith, and then mobilize them for mission service. Without the support of Alabama Baptist, the State Board of Missions, Dr. Rick Lance, I don't think we'd be where we are, just to be quite frank with you. That has been one of the most gratifying things that I've experienced, the generosity of Alabama Baptist, giving through the cooperative program, Myers-Mallory State Missions offering, and all the ways that Alabama Baptist make ministry happen. I think what I would want them to know most of all is that those ministries affect individual lives. It may be a name or a number, but when you boil it all down, it's an individual student being impacted by the gospel, growing in their faith, maturing, growing up, and learning how God can use them in the world. And I think that's the future. So I thank God that to have been a part of this over 44 years. And I'm not done. I'm going to look forward to what God is going to do through this ministry in the days ahead. I'll certainly be its number one champion. And I'm looking forward to that.
Well, thank you for dedicating your life to such an important ministry and how you've served and given yourself. And we've enjoyed watching your journey.
Thank you, Jennifer. I sure do appreciate you and the role that Alabama Baptist, not just the paper, but Alabama Baptist media has played in getting the word out about what we're doing and helping Alabama Baptists understand and unpack the important role of student ministry in our state today. Thank you very, very much.
It's been our pleasure.